Hi, we're the Death Hilarious, and unfortunately, we're the last of the good guys. Hi guys, and welcome to Last of the Good Guys. And yes, that's right, it's finally happened. I've won the lottery! And this is my new flat. No, we're in Glenn's house.
Yes, we are. We're in the Swansea Valley in Ystrad Gunlice, which is kind of halfway between Swansea and Brecon, for those who know the area. For those who don't, you'll be glad you live in London, no doubt. So,
yes. So yeah, what's going on, brother?
Oh, I don't know. It's all good. It's all good, bro. Just a couple of Budweisers and just chilling, watching the footy. No, you never see me say that unless I'm being paid to act it.
Yeah. Just not sinking a few Miller Lights. Yeah, it's not going to happen.
We better get gigs, let alone acting.
That's true, not acting work. But if any casting agents are watching this, then you must be desperate. You must be very, very desperate.
Yeah,
but I can play. Let me think. I can do a Scottish guy.
You can do George Galloway.
I can do George Galloway.
He's been working on his George Galloway.
You upbraided the lack of height of my colleague. Have you seen Rishi Sunak?
The thing with Saddam Hussein is he is a good man, but is he any worse than corporations like Starbucks and Poundland? Do I ask you? I tell you!
He just sort of really emphasises everything.
Yes, that's not bad.
Yeah, okay.
I was talking to something the other day, and I did totally off the cuff Peter Hitchens, and I'll be honest, I think it's the best impression I've ever done.
Okay, go on then.
They are themselves moral, and that those who don't hold their views, which I don't, are themselves immoral. So I take...
Well, Darren, I had spoken about Peter Hitchens, and the reason that I'm talking about Peter Hitchens is that nobody wants to discuss what Peter Hitchens will do, because of course nobody's interested, and it's very likely they will have come off this podcast altogether. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not interested, but I think it's actually quite a good impression of Peter Hitchens.
Yeah, he's got that kind of look. Do you remember we saw him on TV in a pub somewhere, and he's got that look. He looks like a catwalk model. He's just kind of all going.
Yeah, that's right.
Astaroth,
the worship of Mammon and Astaroth and the slaughter of children in the womb by the thousands is a travesty. And my late brother's fans, who I used to call fanboys, they seem to hate me for whatever reason that is, and I'm not interested, and I'm not going to make any apologies.
I've got another one, my Slavoj Žižek.
Yeah, this is, if you didn't know Peter Hitchens was, guys, this is going to mean nothing to you.
Who are, give me some names and so on, and who are these postmodern, egalitarian, neo-Marxists, and where do you see any kind even of Marxism? I see in it mostly an impotent, an utterly impotent moralization.
So, Mr. Peterson, where are these Marxists? You say that it's all part of the postmodernist agenda, but where are the postmodernists, Mr. Peterson? Where are these Marxists? I have not met any of them.
That's good. Yeah, it's all right. It's not bad.
Not bad. I mean, he's pretty distinctive. I think.
Pretty distinctive. My belly stinks as well.
Yeah, he sweats a lot. That's for sure.
Well, no doubt about that.
And then you've got. I think you've got. Well, we've sort of.
Well, we've done these before, but these are additional ones.
But Douglas, I guess it was sort of.
Douglas Murray's. Yeah, yours is all right. It doesn't really sound like him. It's just got the sort of.
Well, yeah, Douglas Murray does this thing. Is obviously he was. Obviously, he's got a lisp, and it's all sort
very
of
slight lisp.
It's very strange. And that's where I've noticed what they say in like things like The Spectator, and like a lot of these kind of neocon kind of journalists and commentators and stuff. Rather than say they find something just disgusting and offensive, they kind of cloak it in this kind of Miss Marple kind of like the curious case of the
curious case of the mass migration of fighting age men into Europe. What a quandary.
The strange death of Europe. Like, everything's strange
book,
and curious. But then he kind of... but now he started to do this thing where, as he gets older, he's sort of like... He's becomes very theatrical. So now he sort of starts at the top of the register like this, and then eventually, to give his words more gravitas, his voice gets very, very low.
And eventually the Stalinist says to Orwell what Orwell knows he's going to say all along, which is, he says, you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. And Orwell says, where's the omelette?
Gruff, as if he's a character from Lord of the Rings.
It does. It does sound like that.
So there you go, guys. That's our
attempt to make this more relevant. I had an idea, which was to go to like get some sort of publisher to pay for me to go to secondary schools. Bear with me.
Yes. Hear him out, officer.
Wait in the girls' changing rooms. No, not at all. And
instruct them in how to put their bras on properly.
And I think that is a noble pursuit.
It is.
Nobody else would do it.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to go around...
no man of my age would so selflessly help these young teens through puberty.
Yeah. I'll be there to answer all their questions on periods, oral sex, what boys like. No.
Girls, let me tell you what boys your age like. Chewing gum.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And hefty perfume.
Hefty perfume. They like scent. A lot of scent, dears. They love scent, dears. Put loads of scent on.
Dears. You call them dears.
They call them dears.
Gather round, dears. Gather round. Listen to Papa.
Jesus. No, my idea was to go around secondary schools and sort of get access to all the old textbooks that some schools have had. I mean, I guess some of them are still...
extant.
Like 20 and 30-year-old textbooks in schools. You know,
well, yeah. I mean, when I was in school, yeah, there were ones from
the 80s,
pretty much,
maybe late 70s, even potentially.
Yeah.
Anyway, but even more recent ones would be great. And you look through them to find really great pieces of graffiti, where somebody's just drawn on a picture or something, because I think they are some of the funniest things ever. And I think they'd be great to do that for a year all over the country. And just compile them into like a coffee table book of the funniest ones, because I think it's a tragedy that those really funny, and they are jokes essentially.
Yeah, but also it's quite like, what's great about them is they're completely mindless, because they're obviously like sixth formers and like
they're not meant
teenagers.
To be seen. It's not like a TikToker, performing for an audience.
Yes,
this is like
almost like a Banksy. Yeah. Anonymous Banksy.
But even Banksy knows that he's doing it for an audience.
Yes, that's true.
Like, I just love how sort of unadulterated it is. And
it's not clever at all.
No,
that's what I like about it.
Sometimes in its creativity, it is.
Yes, well, always the famous one was like on the religious textbooks. They'd be like, you'd have a religious tableau, by like, I don't know, Donatello or Leonardo da Vinci or something like that. Any one of the turtles, there'd be like a big cock coming from the cloud, and it would be an arrow saying God's cock, which was always a classic. And you'd have like religious textbooks were the best, because it'd be like it'd have this like very in-depth description of different kind of religions and ways of life, and you'd have
concept of just war.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd have this kind of, I don't know, like a yogi or something, and then you would have just seen someone would have drawn with a fountain pen just a little tiny bell end hanging down from under his robes, like a dripping cock as well.
If you're not going to make a cock dripping when you draw it, whether it's piss, semen, or other fluids. Then go home.
I do remember one, and it was I can't remember. I think it was like a medieval drawing of Christ, and it was very. It was one of those ones where it was very two-dimensional. There wasn't a lot of like rendering there. It was just very like austere, and someone just drawn this like dick coming out, quite a well drawn dick actually. And just got out, and it was going into Jesus' mouth, and there was a little speech bubble that just said, "Yum yum, more dick."
That's hilarious.
I mean, it's pretty talented, the fact that he could have said it with a full mouth, for a start.
Well, he was the son of God.
That's right. Yeah.
You know,
and I
if
shall
he could
speak
turn-
unto you through the dripping cock.
Yes, if he could, turn water into wine at Cana and rise on the third day, I'm sure he could talk with a mouthful of fucking jizz or whatever.
It said something like, it was in the toilet, and it was something like, I will be here for everyday blowjob. I will be here for everyday blowjob, call this number. And I was remember thinking, who wants an everyday blowjob? You know what I mean? You want a special blowjob. You want a half-hearted blowjob.
I should fucking cocoa.
Yeah, exactly.
But where I used to work in Tesco supermarket in Swansea, it was like 2004, 2005. That is, I think it's the graffiti in the staff toilets of Tesco Forestwach.
Like poetry, was it?
I mean, if it was awful. It was kind of, I wouldn't even say it was so good. It was poetic. It was just vile, hateful, angry, mad, and in its own way, quite sort of majestic.
Yeah.
So yeah, what it was in the staff toilets, there were 2 cubicles, as you know, on the far side. You went in and there's urinals and there's 2 cubicles. And on the far cubicle, there was just a wall, obviously, next to where you sat on the toilet. There was just a wall, and it was a white plasterboard that had been painted. So I remember the first week I was there noticing the graffiti, and it was just a wall of pen, like people, because everyone tended to carry a pen. Because back then when I joined, everyone had a pen.
Before phones, of course.
It was before phones and just after typewriters. There was just, in red writing, had been scraped into the wall, honestly, like a Jack the Ripper message. It just said, just with no, it wasn't even meant to be funny, it just said, hang all trolley boys.
Wow. Do you reckon there was some sort of internecine war between the trolley boys and the till staff? People worked on the deli, different kingdoms of
Yeah, because I remember I worked on fruit and veg, and we got on pretty well with the guys on the back door, and we got on pretty well with the guys who were on the chill departments.
Yeah.
But we really hated the people who work on clothing, and we really hated the people who worked on beers, wines, and spirits at the top end because they were so aloof and they're just so distant and everything. It was just but there was some really rough graffiti there. There was
to get the people on bakery to grant you safe passage through the wines and spirits territories.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, there was the other graffiti. I remember there was someone had just drawn a pair of tits, and somebody had pointed. Somebody had done an arrow, and it just said, "These are." It was basically a big fat manager who worked there, and it just said, "These are." And his mum was the deputy store manager, so there was this whole thing now of don't write any more graffiti, and the graffiti stick kept coming. One of the most hanging things. It was the most intricate drawing of a vagina. Just the whole nether regions of a woman with her legs open.
Regions, yeah.
With her legs sort of spread.
The flank, yeah.
Yeah, and with drips coming out of it, and they had just done a little arrow, and it said in just perfect, really nice handwriting. It just said "bleeding cunt." And I think the worst of the worst, and there was loads of other graffiti there.
You were just there furiously making notes, going, right, okay.
I remember it all because it was so, it was outrageous. And I was only 16 when I started working there, so I was still quite wow, that's, some of this is grown men writing this. Yeah. And perhaps the most gross thing anybody did was because it was plasterboard. Somebody had dug a hole in the plasterboard with their finger and, using pen, had drawn little rugby posts under the hole. And then they'd written next to it, "Please join us in a game of snot rugby. Please flick your snot rugby balls over the posts." And this hole was full of 50 different people's snot, and around the hole, people had missed, and there was just snot everywhere. So it was just this idea of you just pick your nose and you try and get it in the hole over the rugby posts.
Wow.
And that seemed to be the straw that broke the camel's back, because one day the toilets were blocked off for renovation. What they did is they filled in the holes, painted it all white, and then they put like a perspex plastic sheet over the entire wall.
Oh, really? Just wrote underneath in like print, like no snot rugby.
Well, not far off, but there was a big sign saying anyone caught graffitiing something like in the style that has been seen in this toilet before will be dismissed instantly and will never work for Tesco ever again. People still, like, you could tell people had used their like box cutters to like chisel into it,
really?
but nothing. You know, occasionally someone had just written like twat.
Yeah.
While they were having a shit, just in a box with a box cutter, and I'm like, wow, you are really railing against the firmament there.
Wow.
Like, I hate night shift.
I love the fact as well. It's like, you know, it's such kind of misspent creativity on everybody.
Yes,
you know,
it is.
You know, snot rugby is disgusting, but there's like, you know,
there's
there's an element of creativity to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I've got a graffiti story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might not have heard all the details.
I've
of
heard
this
a little
one.
bit, but go on.
So this is the story about when I was the one and only time I've been arrested. Okay, so I was about 20. Okay, and I just started seeing my partner of the time, my first partner.
Is it a boy or a girl?
Well, I can't say because
He might be.
yeah, I might be.
I'm straight, but he might be.
But I might be. We don't know. And so I was very much trying to kind of, you know, you're trying to seem a bit kind of rebellious and, you know,
You're playing up, basically.
Yeah, playing up, essentially,
Yeah,
trying to impress them. And so I was like, I sort of did a lot of, you know, mad, irresponsible stuff.
What, shoplifting?
Shoplifting, you know,
Flicking the V's.
Yeah, flicking the V's at the vicar. And so yeah, I was like, hatched this, I would call harebrained plan to ill-advised to spray paint some lines of my own poetry on the side of a wall in the middle of Pontypridd town centre.
Okay.
So Pontypridd is a very small kind of market town in the valleys, right? It's an you know, absolute shithole. So I was,
I called it a market town,
and I thought. Yeah. And I thought, in much the same way as you know, like I don't know, like you know, like a Russian Soviet poet or something. I thought, with my art, I could pull the people pull the proles out of the slums and make them look at the stars. You know, so I snuck out I was living with my parents at the time. Snuck out of the window at like 3 a.m. and I walked. And so from my parents' house to Pontypridd, I would say it's about maybe a 2-hour walk.
Yeah, it's not.
It's far. So I walked all the way there in the middle of the night because I thought, there's not going to be anyone out in the middle of the night. Nobody's going to see me doing this. And so I got into the town, and I remember seeing, littered with CCTV, all the way into the town centre. But I remember looking at it and thinking, oh no, they won't catch me. I'm like the Scarlet Pimpernel. They're not going to catch me.
Or the gingerbread man.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. Yeah, catch me if you can. So I walked into the town. I had my spray can in my backpack, along with a change of clothes, so that when I changed my clothes, the police wouldn't recognise me.
They wouldn't recognise you all the way back to your house.
Exactly. So I had this. I think I had a hoodie on as well, and so I went in and I got to my site, which is this kind of bit of wall. So then I shut my can up and I start spraying it, right. And now I know what you're going to say. You want to know what it was.
Yeah, I would love to know what you were going to say.
This was the line, and it's so embarrassing. Like, if I tell this story to people, I'm reluctant to say this bit. So the lines were, as shards of spires splinter skies, our horizons lie flat as fields. So the idea is, while the spires of industry reach upwards, our horizons, but like mental horizons.
So did they arrest you for that or the graffitiing? What was it?
I think it was crimes against Milton, I think is what they arrested me for.
Yeah.
Terrible. But so I was spraying that, and as I get through, as I'm at the word horizons, the spray paint runs out.
Like it was a doomed enterprise.
So it was like a shards of spires, splinter skies, our horizon. Right, I remember that because the police officer repeated it on the walkie-talkie later,
Really?
as he was laughing.
Was he laughing?
He was laughing. Yeah, they were both laughing.
Oh no.
So anyway, I'm like, right, well, this is fucked. You know, I can't. Right, so I get rid of the spray can. I walk back outside. There's still nobody around. I go, this is yeah. You know, I did feel like Banksy or someone. You know, I was like, wow, I might be getting away with this. Went behind some trees, changed my clothes. I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't like the talented Mr. Ripley or anything. I didn't
It's just Mr. Ripley.
It was just Mr. Ripley, very untalented Mr. Ripley. I put I changed like a white t-shirt for a blue t-shirt, and I changed maybe a pair of denim jeans for slightly bigger denim jeans. Yeah, and I took the hoodie off. And I was just walking with my backpack on. I got to the outskirts of Pontypridd, and I was like, I've done it. I did it. Great. Patrol car just pulls up next to me. And I'm like, oh, here we go. So he says, excuse me, all right, mate, could you just jump in a sec? So I jump in, and I'm like, oh, hello, officers. I'm just really, polite. I'm like, oh, anything I can trouble you with? Any ne'er-do-wells around? I've seen a few on my travels so far. Oh, me, I'm just going home from seeing my partner. Yes, they live up there. And police officer said, oh yeah, okay, yeah. No, it's just we just had someone of your description, been seen, vandalising some property. Oh, not me, officers. No, definitely not. I was brought up well. My father's a builder, my mother's a care worker. I got straight A's in school. And anyway, they were questioning me, and I was, just peddling this bullshit. And then the guy was like, what's that on your finger? And I just had black spray paint all over my fingers. And I went, well, it's a fair cop gov, I'm banged to rights. And then he just read me my rights. And then they drove me back to the site of the crime, the scene of the crime. And, read what I'd said over the walkie-talkie, both of them laughing the whole time. And then, because I didn't have ID on me, they had to drive me home. If I'd have had ID on me, they would have let me go. And I could have, it was like a 80 quid fine or something. So they had to drive me home, and I remember knocking at the door. It was 6 a.m. by that point. My dad opens the door. It's 2 police officers with me. My mother's crying. I remember my mother crying her eyes on my dad's. My mum.
What a reveal!
My mother crying his eyes out. I found out that night, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
No, but I remember my dad going you can't keep doing this to your mother. You're breaking your mother's heart. And so the coda to this story is maybe a few months later. I joined a creative writing class in Pontypridd, and I went one day, and there was always the same faces, but people would drift in, and that was
always the same faces.
Yeah, and one day there was a guy there, and he was in a white shirt, and I was like, I don't recognise him. I don't know where. I know him from somewhere. And we went for a break, and then during the break, this guy went up to the teacher of the class and said, oh yeah, I'm going to go, and left. And then after he left, I suddenly realised that was one of my arresting officers.
Really?
Yeah. So in my sick, twisted, little egotistical head,
he couldn't stop thinking.
He couldn't stop thinking. He was like, shards of spires. He's walking around Ponty, looking at the church, going, my horizons, they do lie flat as fields.
He's on the computer, reading Dylan Thomas, and his wife's like, you coming up, John? He goes, just checking the football results.
Just
checking the football results.
You put the boys to bed now.
Yeah.
Were you off out now? Oh, I'm going to have an affair with a woman.
So she thinks he's
not reading on nothing.
He thinks he's shagging a woman called Shelley, and actually finds out that it's Shelley the poet. It's Percy Bysshe Shelley, and she's more horrified.
Yeah, she's more horrified.
I wish you were fucking somebody from the hairdresser instead of reading fucking gay poetry. You fucking embarrassment, you are.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And then he goes, gaze on my work, see mighty and despair.
Yeah, there we go. In my head, I thought, yeah, I inspired him.
Yeah. And they found him in a river then, 20 minutes later.
Taking his own life. He's learned how to write his suicide note properly.
Oh, yeah.
How to format it well. Yeah, so there we go.
Quoting everyone.
That's my story of my arrest, guys. So, kids, if you're thinking about graffiti and poetry, don't. Instead, take up smoking or, smoking weed and then doing heroin.
Talking about, sort of classic modern graffiti that you see if, you're driving into Bristol and you just see it on shit everywhere.
Yeah, like Grotescos or something like that.
Yeah. No, but even then, some of it is so, it's impenetrable. You're reading it and it's like, it's like a tag of something, of a gang, or like a bunch of artists, like some artist commune. And it's quite like, even to someone who knows nothing about those kind of subcultures except seeing this graffiti, I'm like, wow, you've obviously like, you know, see some of it and you're like, you obviously had to like hang off that bridge to do that. That was obviously really dangerous.
Yeah.
And it looks like technically really good. The sort of thing I struggle to do in an art studio with a cup of tea, and they're doing it like probably on the QT.
Yeah.
In the dark with a torch.
Imagine that being like, oh, how did your son die? Oh, he fell off a bridge and brained himself trying to write Mandem on the side of a footbridge. I mean, imagine that's how your child dies.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem worth it. The ones I like are the ones where they do like a whole train carriage. You know, they'll do like those freights that go by, and they'll just spray it all over the side of these.
It looks
these
very
freight
nice.
trains. Yeah, it's great. I would advocate graffiti genuinely. I think it's, you know, in the council. I mean, there is a difference. There is like art graffiti. That's the next level of art, and like you said, then there is like a dripping dick. You know, I mean, can't be a dripping dick, but
no.
My friend Gareth could draw a really good, anatomically correct cock with like a like the vague outline of a vein running through it.
Well, I remember in school drawing, like, you know, you draw stuff to make your friends laugh.
Yeah.
And I was in Mr. Jenkins' geography class. He lives around here actually. When I was in year 8, maybe year 9, and I drew to make my best mate Liam laugh. We had this like ongoing joke. I can't remember where it had come from, and it proved not to be a million miles out in the end, that Rolf Harris was a sexual deviant, and that he was having sex with the animals on Animal Hospital, which that obviously wasn't true, but he was a deviant.
Not that we found out anyway.
No, it's very difficult to get a parrot to testify, even if they can't speak a few words.
A sad look in a dog's eyes will not pass muster in court.
No, absolutely not. But it was a drawing of Rolf Harris with his trousers down behind like a curtain in the vet's office, having sex with like a budgie, and you just see like feathers everywhere.
Nice.
And you could see his like arse going for it, and the speech bubble just said "Struth, mate," almost like something like "Struth, mate, I'm fucking this budgie," you know.
Just saying what's happening.
Yes, which is always quite funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
And but as I finished it, because I'd been spending so long on it, and this teacher was quite a sharp guy. He was actually all right.
Yeah.
And he'd obviously watched me draw it.
Yeah.
And as I finished, he just immediately snapped out of talking about what he was talking about. And it was quite a big class, you know, like when you're in year 7, 8, 9, the classes are bigger than they are later.
Yeah.
So there's still like 30 odd people, and I was like, you know, no, he's not gonna see it. But he clocked me, and he went, Glenn, he said, you've obviously spent a while drawing that. I'd like to see it, please. And I was like, in my head, I was like, there is no way this can be seen by any teacher in this school. And he started walking towards me. And it was, thank God, it was only on like, it was in one of the, it was like a
Did you get a lighter out? Were you trying to burn it?
No, it was.
Or did you eat it?
Yes. Yeah.
Didn't.
On my mother's life, on my dad's life.
Ate it.
I ate it. It was only one of those. Do you know those like spelling books? Used to do spelling tests.
Like the thin ones.
Yeah,
like
about the size
the
of like
ones,
a bit bigger than a calculator kind of thing. Yeah. Well, it was only one of those. So I remember going, I'm gonna have to. And you know when especially I was a bit of a square in year 9, so I didn't want to get shouted at. I didn't want my parents up to school. Yes. I mean, for rougher kids, they probably would have been like, water off a duck's back, fuck you, whatever. But I was such a square. I was like, no. So I went, so you can't see it. And he went, I'm going to see it. And he was getting closer and closer. And in the end, I just went, and I just put it in my mouth. I just looked at him, and he went, no, fair enough. And he just carried on.
Oh wow! Imagine you'd have joked on that.
It was a small bit of paper, and I was really fat. I was used to eating.
And you just went,
this
is delicious.
If I could low calorie as well. Only 2-ply? What is this? Don't know what that means. No. Oh God, if I could finish an Asda pizza in 8 mouthfuls, a little bit of paper was no problem back then. Had to draw. We used to draw loads of shit. My best mate, he got his parents. He kept his in like a dossier.
Oh yeah, that's great. We used to do things like that.
I know,
we'd have doodle books, me and my best friend.
Yeah,
Gareth,
exactly. His parents found his. And they sat him down and they said, like, if we see this again, you're going to go to a psychiatrist. And my mother found one of mine in the bin, which I'd obviously pulled out of my school bag and chucked when I was in
Yeah.
year 8 or year 9 again. And it was, again, we always, like much like we do now, even still in birthday cards today.
Oh, yeah. I don't think, we can't...
No, we couldn't even show people.
We can't
what
even
do.
talk about it, but basically every year we write each other birthday cards and we fill it with the most offensive, obscene, I would call them like almost like Where's Wally, Where's Wally-esque kind of tableaus of like just...
It's like Bosch meets the crazy world of Richard Scarry. With like references.
Bosch by way of Peter Sutcliffe.
Yes.
You know.
It's Bosch by way of Peter Sutcliffe and Where's
the annual
Wally?
Meeting of Combat 18.
Yeah.
You know, it's horrific.
It's about as offensive. It's as offensive as anything that you've tried to cancel anybody for, or have seen someone be cancelled for. But it's only between friends, and the idea is to make us laugh at the most outrageous thing we can write.
I know it's a success as if the moment, because we always be there for the grand opening.
Oh, you have to be, yes.
So we have to be there when sort of Glenn will open his card. This is the reaction I know that I've done one is where he just goes, oh, like that. That's when I know I've done my job.
Well, yours is where you'll open it and then you'll immediately shut it and like you'll do like a sort of laugh, which is like a high pitched wheeze. So you'll go, oh my god, and then you'll open it up again. And often it's fun to do it in a pub where you're like looking over your shoulder. Going for a drink for someone's birthday, to open it in a pub in front of people.
Yeah, like reading a banned book, you know, or like
reading the Anarchist Cookbook, proper contraband.
Liam kept a dossier.
Yeah, Liam kept a dossier, and he was threatened with a psychiatrist. And I remember my mother found one, and I say, much like we do today, one of the fun things is to take a relatively innocent thing from popular culture and just thoroughly besmirch it.
Yes.
So when I was younger, we used to find it very funny, the idea of Postman Pat. And we always, a repeated theme that we did was always blended Postman Pat with the Passion of the Christ, and it was Postman Pat being crucified, and it just said the Passion of the Post, and his cat was just watching, and he was like, so he still had his hat on and his big nose and his glasses, but he'd been like scourged and he was hanging from the cross, and like, you know, the Roman centurion was the farmer with the moustache.
Longinus.
Exactly, Longinus, and like Farmer Arnold or whatever his name was. And
everybody knows he rose on the seventh day.
Third day.
Third day.
Nails right through your wrists. Postman Pat. So we did that. But my mother found one. I'd like scrumpled it out and put it in the bin, and she did not handle that very well. You might be surprised to hear, anyone who's heard stories about my mother. But she was like genuinely like in my face. She went, "Found this in the bin. What's wrong with you? Why would you draw something like this? Why would you draw something like this?" You know, it's like basically,
why are you like this?
Looking for an answer that would never come.
Yeah, exactly. She's
and the worst part of it was like I found it funny.
Yeah, of course.
And then the worst thing is that her like pushing it even more would make me laugh more.
Yeah.
But I do remember my mother would occasionally, she did very occasionally like grab in your face. Like she wouldn't hurt you, but she'd be like, and she'd go, "Is there something wrong with you?" That was always the one I liked.
Yeah, I remember. I do remember my friend in school drawing. I think it was Dipsy from the Teletubbies, having his brain controlled by a spider. Like there was a spider working the levers in his brain. He was just like walking along like that, and it was a horrible hairy spider, and just the glazed look in the Teletubbies' eyes.
Yeah, for anyone who's not familiar with hidden mother photography, you might have come across it on Facebook groups and stuff. If you follow like history groups like I do on Facebook, you might have seen it. But we all spend a lot of time on the internet these days on our phones, so there's a good chance you might have seen it.
Hey,
and it's
cultural critic Glenn Wade over here is really
really
hit the nail on the
head. I'm a veritable
living.
Kenneth Tynan. Thank you very much for it's a phenomenon that occurred in the sort of early days of photography in the sort of mid-Victorian era. So you look in 1860s, 70s, 80s. What would happen is that obviously we all know how long it took to get your picture made
Yeah,
back in the day. And we had one for a poster we did for our Edinburgh show. We had a photograph which is called a daguerreotype, named after Louis Daguerre, who was one of the sort of pioneers of early photography. And you saw
Sorry, go on.
sneers at knowledge. Look at that. What type of man sneers at knowledge?
This is a comedy podcast. Okay.
If you wanted a picture of your young child, baby or toddler or whatever, often, like with kids today, they will scream and get upset because they don't want to stand still. They want their mother with them. They're frightened. So Victorians had the bright idea of hiding the mother in the photograph so that the child would be calmed and stay still. And when you initially see these photographs, many of them anyway, you don't instantly see there's something amiss until you're told, oh, you think that kid's sitting on a chair? It's actually sitting on its mother's lap, and the mother has a big flowery blanket over her. That one's pretty mad.
Yeah, that's great, because they've not, like... Again, there's no concession to making it look like furniture or an armchair.
No,
it's clearly someone...
It's a woman. That's another great one.
That's hilarious.
See her knees.
It's like a sort of headless Mr. Blobby, like, holding 3 kids.
Yeah, some of these are awesome. Again, there's another one there. I mean,
yeah, again, this is like the Grim Reaper holding your little baby.
Yeah, it is.
And with infant mortality rates, what they were back then, it's actually pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, some of these. I mean, that is absolutely nightmarish. That's like a wraith holding your little baby. Like,
yeah, there's some where they're barely trying. They've just put like a lampshade over their head.
Yeah, I mean look at that.
Yeah, I mean, my cousin had pictures of, like, she had twins. She had pictures of her babies. Basically, they put them in like a hot room, so that the kids like basically become half conscious, and sleepy. What? And then they take the picture, so they look like, there's pictures of them like curled up.
Pop them in the car. We'll pop the we'll do
on a hot day.
No, not even that. So we'll put the exhaust through the thing, and when they start to get woozy, we'll take a quick picture and then get them out and rescue them. It's weird. I always find like old photography absolutely fascinating. Like,
Yeah, and we hope you do at home.
Well, nobody's watching this, and if they're staying with us this long, they probably would be actually interested to have this conversation in real life.
Probably. So, guys, what do you think about old photography?
Yeah. The phone's not ringing. What's going on? A relative of mine, who shall remain nameless, was ticked off by another relative of mine for sharing pictures on a Facebook group called The Angels, and it was, it's fucking tragic.
Yeah.
But it was basically children who are stillborn, or photographs of like children who died in infancy, and the argument was so you can post porn on Facebook, but you can't post photographs of these beautiful angels. It's like, I don't think you can post porn on Facebook. I mean, I think you can post like violent videos. Weirdly, you can. They do allow that. Yeah, oddly. Waters. Yeah. No, but you farting.
No. I'm rubbing my feet together.
He has been farting all day, and it's been noxious, is what it's been.
But I mean, he still lets me in his house, so does he want more, or does he want less? I'm getting mixed messages here.
Mummy thinks...
Pick a lane, dude. Do you want me to fart in your house, or do you want me to climb into bed with you? Pick a lane.
God. Yes.
Well, a relative of mine, and I won't disclose who, but let's just say it's my uncle's brother. And he brought me up. Let's just leave it there. We'll share, and I've had to unfollow him now because he shares all this stuff. He'll share an image of pretty much just a head.
Multiple amputee.
Yes, a multiple amputee child that's been born. Quadriplegic, or whatever, or maybe a conjoined twin, or possibly something like that. And we'll post that, and then underneath we'll write, and in the picture it'll be like, I need 100 likes and shares on this.
For prayers.
I would need like one share equals a prayer, yeah. And then as a result, but I don't understand.
You didn't share it.
No, of course I didn't. I didn't share it. Yeah,
no, of course not.
Because I. But also, it's like, what do you think's gonna happen? Is that the next picture's going to be them, with their legs all regrown,
nice, but it's not going to happen.
Fingers up, going, "No, I'm the star player on the soccer team." Yeah. So.
And they're often American as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's like the old thing about aunties and stuff sharing missing dog posts from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Shared,
casting the net really wide.
Shared Pontypridd. This dog went missing 4 years ago in Nebraska.
Well, they're clever dogs, aren't they?
Clever dogs might have gone on a plane, come here, never know, do they? Might be walking.
Security checks being as lax as they are these days.
Might be looking after. He might come here. Might be looked after by a homeless man in the bont to feeding him fags, because apparently fags worm animals if they eat them. That's what I heard. So yeah.
How should we end this then?
I don't really know.
Well, we do get your cats in and make them do a dance.
I'll see if Branwell wants to go and see the camera if he's around.
Okay. That's right, you lucky. Go back. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, you lucky podcast listeners, for the end of episode 8 or 9 of The Last of the Good Guys. Here we have Glenn Wade and the amazing dancing cat.
Your mother.